Hello there and a very good morning and welcome to the Breakfast Rundown with me, Zulfick Farzan, where we discuss some of the most key developments in the country. Now let's start with the local government elections. Now the local government elections have been delayed. Now the Ministry of Provincial Councils and Local Government has decided to consult the Attorney General regarding the measures that need to be taken for the nominations that were submitted for the local government election. Now, State Minister Janaka Wakkumura has highlighted that the postponement of the local government elections that was first announced in 2022 has led to numerous issues with the submitted nomination papers. Now, Wakkumura pointed out that if the elections proceed with the current nominations, around 900,000 voters will be disenfranchised. Now, he also pointed out that another group of individuals who recently turned 18 would also miss out the opportunity of exercising their franchise. Now, at the same time, the Election Commission has announced its plans to hold the local government election as soon as possible in compliance with a recent Supreme Court ruling. Now, at the same time, Sri Lanka is gearing up for one of the most crucial presidential elections. Now, this is going to be the first election since the 2022 economic crisis. Now, the election will take place on the 21st of September. Now, just a few weeks ago, the application process for state employees to engage in the postal voting program or the postal voting system for the presidential election concluded, and those applications were then submitted to a strict verification process to ensure and determine who is eligible to exercise their franchise via postal voting. Now, Sri Lanka's postal department has announced that secure packages containing the official postal voting ballot papers for the presidential election will be distributed to the heads of institutions and the department heads in the respective districts today. Now, Senior Deputy Postmaster General Ranjit Ranasinghe told Newsfirst that 349,000 secure packets have already been distributed. Now, the total number of secure packets containing the official ballot papers for the presidential election stands at around 712,000. Now, the Election Commission has also announced that only the following forms of identification will be accepted for casting postal votes for the presidential election. Now, what are they? They are the national identity card, a valid driver's license, a passport, or a temporary ID card issued by the Election Commission. Now, while all these preparations are underway by the Election Commission, Sri Lanka Police is also engaging in a very comprehensive plan ahead of the presidential election. Now, one of those plans is to comply with the orders to remove illegal banners and cutouts and other election propaganda material. Now, Sri Lankan authorities have hired 1,500 laborers to remove unauthorized posters and cutouts across the country. Now, Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police Asanka Karavita, who is also in charge of the election monitoring process from Sri Lanka Police, has announced that stringent measures are being implemented to ensure compliance with the regulations for the presidential election. Now, he said that a mammoth number of 161,358 election posters and cutouts have been removed so far ahead of the presidential election. Now, at the same time, Sri Lanka Police has announced a deployment of approximately 260 experienced officers dedicated to ensuring the security of presidential candidates. Now, DIG Asanka Karavita, who oversees the Police Election Bureau, confirmed that these officers are part of a very wide and comprehensive plan that is aimed at the presidential election. Now, in addition to the security detail assigned to these presidential candidates, special security measures have also been implemented for the election rallies of the candidates who are contesting for the presidential election. Now, just to remind you that a total number of 39 candidates submitted their nominations for the presidential election that will take place on the 21st of September, and unfortunately one of those candidates recently passed away due to illness, and bringing the number to 38 candidates who are running for the presidential election. Now, at the same time, yesterday was a very important day for two candidates. that is independent candidate and President Ranil Wickremesinghe, and opposition leader and leader of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, that's Sajith Premadasa. Now both of these candidates presented their election manifestos, Ranil Wickremesinghe in the morning and Sajith Premadasa in the afternoon. Now independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe has said that he has promises the nation what he can realistically deliver, and is committed to avoiding actions that could harm the economy by making unattainable promises. Now, President Wickremesinghe made these remarks while unveiling his manifesto, which is titled 5 Triumphant Years for Sri Lanka with Ranil. Now, the manifesto comprises of 5 core principles. Let me read them out to you. Number 1 is the Theravada trade economy, Operation Beyond 2025. Number 3, towards a prosperous nation. Number 4, a win for the motherland. And finally, number 5, a united Sri Lanka. Now, those are the 5 core principles in the manifesto of independent presidential candidate Ranil Wickremesinghe. Now, Samagi Jana Balawegaya has put forward Sajith Premadasa as its presidential candidate. Now, he presented his plan based on 5 basic policies as well. Now, his policy manifesto loosely translates to a win for all. Now, the 5 base points are, let me read them out to you: building a resilient economy, and then empowering every citizen, enhance government services, protecting equality of living, and safeguarding the nation. Now, at the same time, one key component of the policy statement is regarding the IMF, where he said that the SJB's manifesto, once elected, will see that the revision of the unfair burden sharing structure of the IMF supported tax code that is forcing professionals to seek employment abroad. Now, personal income tax after the tax-free slab of rupees 100,000 per month will start at just 1% according to the policy manifesto of the I beg your pardon, of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. Now, at the same time, now the IMF program has been widely discussed by many factions, including the National People's Power, who have said that they wish to revisit the IMF program for Sri Lanka. Now, the National People's Power has put forward Anura Kumara Dissanayake as its presidential candidate, and recently he also presented his election manifesto to run for the highest office in the country. Now, a member of the NPP's Economic Council, Professor Anil Jayanta Fernando, has raised concerns regarding the conflicting positions maintained by the ranks of the NPP. I beg your pardon, in the ranks of the in the SJB with regard to the IMF program. Now, he pointed out that SJB MP Harsha De Silva has highlighted the rigidity of the IMF agreement, echoing sentiments expressed by President Ranil Wickremesinghe that the program is unchangeable. Now, however, he said that other members of the SJB are maintaining a different position, that the renegotiating or the restructuring is possible with regard to the IMF program. Now, these are the comments made by NPP's Economic Council member Professor Anil Jayanta Fernando. Now, he also went on to note during a press conference yesterday that while Ghana has negotiated better terms with the IMF, Sri Lanka remains constrained by its targets in the IMF program. Now, while the NPP makes those comments, State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe has emphasized that if the promises made by opposition candidates were implemented, the country would immediately lose the IMF program. Now, he also warned that agreements with foreign debt holders and private bond holders would also be jeopardized, leading to a serious economic crisis. Now, State Minister Shehan Semasinghe also said that discussions with the IMF are ongoing regarding the amendments to the pay-as-you-earn or payee tax to provide relief to the public. Now, Shehan Semasinghe expects that tax reductions will be implemented by April 2025 following the finalization of the IMF agreements. Now, at that same press conference, Foreign Minister and Justice Minister Ali Sabri, President's Council, also shared his thoughts on the IMF program and the comments being made by opposition groups. Let's have a listen to what Ali Sabri had to say.
The NPP says that they will renegotiate the DSA, that is the debt sustainable analysis. The entire IMF program is based on the debt sustainable analysis. If you are renegotiating the debt sustainable analysis means you are abandoning the IMF. If you abandon the IMF, that means you are not going to get about $1.2 billion for December and January from IMF, World Bank, ADB and AIB. So that means we are inviting disaster. So hence, I think this is a doable program. Someone who had come out with this is someone who had a proven track record. I feel and I invite all the right thinking people not to be swayed by this promises. The opposition leader goes to various parts and says that he goes to Kurunegala district and says that he'll make the Kurunegala district as the Lanka's best district. And the next day he go to Hambantota and forget about Kurunegala and says that he will make Hambantota district as the best. The next day he goes to East and say the same thing. So these are all promises. But if you ask President Wickremesinghe, he had delivered on whatever he has said. Thank you very much.
While the political platforms are heating up ahead of the presidential election, something interesting also happened at the Colombo port. On Monday, 4 warships reached the port of Colombo. Now 3 of those warships are from China and 1 warship was from India. Now more than 2,000 Navy personnel from both countries were in Sri Lanka during this week, and now all 4 vessels departed yesterday after concluding their formal visit to the country. Now Indian naval ship INS Mumbai, which arrived in Sri Lanka on the 26th of August 2024, departed the island on a successful completion of her formal visit. Now on her departure, INS Mumbai engaged in successful passage exercise or PASEX with Sri Lanka Navy ship Gajabahu. Now PASEX with the Indian and Sri Lankan navies involved training exercises in communication and tactical maneuvering, concluding with the traditional cheer ship salute. Now at the same time, a trio of Chinese People's Liberation Army Navy warships, Heifei, Wuzishan and Kilishan, which arrived in Sri Lanka on the 26th, left the island yesterday. Now, as they departed, the warships also engaged in a passage exercise, also known as PASEX, with Sri Lankan Navy ship Vijayabahu. Now the exercise included training on communication and tactical maneuvers, the same that was done with the Indians as well. Now port calls by foreign naval ships play a crucial role in fostering collaboration among naval forces and strengthening diplomatic ties. Now these visits by foreign navy vessels facilitate naval exercises and training, while also allowing to exchange knowledge among the navy personnel from all nations. That's especially with regard to Sri Lanka Navy and the other visiting navies. At the same time, this morning many parts of the country experienced a rainfall. Now the Met Department is saying that showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in the Galle and Matara and Kandy Nuwara districts. Now showers or thunder showers may occur at few places in the Uva province as well. Now at the same time, the Met Department is also saying that the sun is going to be directly over the latitudes of Sri Lanka until the 6th of September due to its apparent southward relative motion. Now today the sun will be approximately over the areas of Vaunia, Annal Kadimadi and Periya Pandirakshan at around 12:11 noon. Now that's the release given by the Met Department with regard to the sun being directly over the latitudes of Sri Lanka. Now that brings an end to this morning's edition of the Breakfast Rundown with me, Zulfick Farzan. I'll see you again next week. Until then, have a good weekend and God bless.